Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and I am joined once again by Max, our resident Russian and Soviet small arms expert. And Max, I'm sorry, I still haven't quite gotten the habit of exactly how to pronounce your last name. Can you help me out here one more time?
Popenker.
Popenker?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to keep practicing this. I'll get better at it. But today, I believe we're going to talk about the development of the PKM light machine gun, right?
Not light. It's a universal, general-purpose machine gun.
Okay.
It's lightest GPMG, lightest practical GPMG on the market. Okay. Hello, guys. Yes, today our story is about a Kalashnikov PK and PKM. So during World War II, Soviet Army used basically three machine guns. So DP Degtyaryov light machine gun, the Maxim heavy machine gun, and toward the end of the war, Gorunov SG-43, which was intended to replace Maxim. After the end of the war, the idea was that all infantry squads should be armed with weapons for intermediate cartridge. So shortly after the war, the Soviet Army adopted the RPD light machine gun in 7.62 x 39 millimeters, and the company level should be a belt-fed light machine gun firing 7.62 x 54 mm ammunition, and Gorunov, modified Gorunov SGM, was to be used at a battalion level. But during the early 50s, all the NATO armies began to work on the general purpose of the universal machine guns, which were intended to be used on all levels, from squad, platoon, company, battalion, vehicles, helicopters, so on. It was a great idea, pioneered by Germans, and it had a lot of logistical benefits. And we know that logistics is very important for a big army, and Soviet army was huge. So normally it's considered that Soviet designers began to work on the universal machine guns during early 50s. However, as early as 1941, Degtyaryov produced a truly universal air-cooled machine gun, belt-fed, which can be used from bipod with lighter barrel and from special tripod with heavier barrel. Here is the photo. Unfortunately, it was still in early development, and it was not ready for production before the start of the war. So it was left only as a prototype. But it was 1941. So first known Soviet universal machine gun, belt-fed. So, as early as 1945-48, designers began to work on the light, like platoon level or company level, belt-fed machine guns in 7.62 mm ammunition, and on a heavier weapons. Problem was, none was satisfactory. So work was going on into 50s, attempts to produce completely new guns or guns based on Gorunov SGM. It was like a prototype from like a Silin, Pervushin, Garanin, and so on. But no weapon was satisfactory until probably 1955, when a designer from Tula, known as Nikitin, with the help of second designer Sokolov, produced a new universal machine gun, which finally satisfied Soviet Army. It was gas operated, and interestingly, while it fired the same remit ammunition, it used belt with open pockets for a single stage feed. So instead of older two-stage feed, like in Maxim and Gorinov, the cartridge is first pulled out from the belt, lowered down, and then feed forward into the barrel. The cartridge was not stripped down from the belt pocket by special fingers and then feed directly into the barrel, which was probably simpler and easier to achieve. And here I have a very rare photo of original Nikitin belt with cartridges loaded in it, open pockets. Problem was that as soon as army decided that, okay, we go ahead with Nikitin, let's make a batch for field trials, work start to go on a leisurely manner, like they say. So Nikitin took his time to refine the design, to produce a first batch for trials, and our problem was that the army was not really entirely satisfied with the gun because it worked really well, except when it was wet. So if you had to, say, cross the river, or if you got it frozen and then you had like melted snow, water tended to get into the automatic valve in gas piston. It was self-regulating system. And for several shots, you had to manually cycle the gun until all the water is extracted or evaporated. So the first several shots, you had a single shot gun. Not a good idea in the field. So military insisted, okay, guys, let's fix it, let's do it. And for some reason, developers still dragged their feet on it. So in the end, military decided, okay, we need to get the things faster. Let's ask somebody else to get a competing design. Let's put some spice in the thing, so let's force the tool designers to work faster. If you will see this, we are again had a competition. Let's force them to work faster. So we asked Kalashnikov if he can try and design universal machine gun. By this time, it was probably 1958 or 1959. Kalashnikov was already experienced designer because he already had AK and was working on RPK, and he was really busy, but still he accepted the challenge. Because it was new experience, of course, his chances to win were slim because Nikitin was almost adopted. We were already ordered for several hundreds for field trials, and Nikitin was supported by Ministry of Military Industries in Russia. Because, like everybody else, there was some bureaucratic bodies, and so, of course, so Ministry of Military Industry decided that a new contract should go not to Izhevsk but to Tula, because we need to balance workloads of factories. So okay, so it will be better if we will go ahead with Tula. But military wanted the new machine gun as soon as possible, so they decided, okay, let's at least Kalashnikov can speed up the development in Tula. And turned it out that Kalashnikov was able to design the gun better than Tula. His design had no self-regulating features. He had a simple manual valve to adjust the rate of fire, to adjust the gun for normal or heavy conditions. And it's not yet known exactly why Kalashnikov decided to use old belt with closed pockets, which was from Maxim. Probably because there was still huge stocks of those steel belts intended for Gorinov, for Maxim. You probably don't know, but Maxim machine guns were officially in use in fortification along the Chinese border until the late 80s in Soviet Union.
Wow. Because
water-cooled machine guns were considered the best tools against human wave type attacks. So everybody else was long obsolete, but in fixed fortifications, we were probably the best thing to keep the adversaries busy and low and well behaved.
Sure.
So basically, military had two guns, one for a new belt, completely new, which had to be produced by different factories, and another for an old belt, which is easily available, it's plentiful, and there's a lot of factories geared up for production of those belts. And when they tested them head-to-head, it turned out that Kalashnikov machine gun performed better Nikitin machine gun. So in 1961, military decided, okay, we'll take the Kalashnikov machine gun, like in its bipod configuration, we'll take a Tula-designed tripod, because it was already really well designed and so on. We'll put them together, and they had a new universal machine gun, which will put in service like light machine gun for company and for company level, or for platoon level as a heavy machine gun, tripod mounted for battalion level or for like a fixed position, so vehicle mounted gun, PKB for бронетранспортер, for Russian бронетранспортер, armor APC. It was basically the same gun, but equipped with brass catcher and a tank version. One interesting aspect about tank version, besides solenoid firing trigger, was that it had a longer barrel. Not because tankers need better ballistics, but because original SGMT Gorunov tank machine guns had 70-centimeter long barrels, and all tank scopes were graduated for this old SGMT machine gun. So it was cheaper to put a longer barrel on machine gun than to produce a new tank site for huge fleet of Soviet tanks and armored vehicles. Basically, the 60-centimeter barrel is pretty sufficient for purpose, but otherwise the ballistic will be different, and it was not good.
Sure.
So for several years, PK family was in use with the troops, and then military examined the results and said, okay, that's a fine gun, but it could be improved probably. And by 1969, Soviet Army adopted the PK modified machine gun, which today still is one of the best and lightest medium universal machine guns in the entire world. So why it is? So it is interesting, especially interesting to read Western documentation on this gun, because normally Soviet propaganda was tended to exaggerate everything, but there is a lot of declassified American reports from 70s on the Kalashnikov machine guns, and they especially underline that very good design of the gas drive, because it was scientifically calculated mass ratio between a heavy bolt carrier and light bolt, and length of travel and spring weight, so it resulted in sufficient power to cycle a gun in each condition. It was really good and simple belt feed system with short top cover, which saved the weight, and short feeding lever, which also helped to save weight. If you compare, say, for example, German on Belgian belt feed system, you had a very long carved lever which operates the feeding fingers. In Kalashnikov copied Czechoslovak feeding system from ZB-37, which very short feed lever located at the right side of the gun. So one deficiency of this system, which American experts pointed out, was that the feed system can be easily disassembled in the field. It can be disassembled only by armorer in armory. But it was so designed that basically you don't need to disassemble it unless it's broke. And if it's broke, you cannot repair it in the field properly. You just put gun away, and then it is repaired, it's recovered by very shovel. So why it is so light? It's probably first because it uses rotating barrel locking. So basically, receiver is not as much stressed as like FN mag M 440, because as you had a long bolt, you need a receiver also to be strong to withstand the stretching of entire bolt length. So here, everything, all stress is concentrated around the barrel nut. Another point, if you look at the layout, the belt feed is located above the barrel bridge area. So your receiver is shorter, so it's less steam. So when Poland decided to redesign the PKM to the NATO standard feed, to the push forward, they had to move barrel forward almost 10 centimeters. So they stretched out receiver and gain it up almost a kilogram of weight from the top cover and from this stretching up. So basically this two-stage feed, which can be considered by some like an obsolete thing, is beneficial for the weight. Another aspect, it's, I don't know if it's true or not, but it's traditionally in Russia said that if your cartridges are very dirty, when they are pulled out from the wraparound belt, some dirt is scraped out from the cartridge by the belt link. So there's less fouling gets into the barrel.
I can see that maybe being the case.
Yeah. So in fact, it's really very, very reliable gun.
Yeah.
And like many guns, it's changed a little during Soviet times. Of course, there was, like I said in our previous interview about Dragunovs, there was attempts to produce PKM for fin-stabilized discarding sabot ammunition. It was like a charm. It was very good dispersion, long range, very long barrel life. The problem was that the military also wanted the same ammunition to be used on sniper rifles, and this was hard to achieve. But otherwise, it would be very, very good medium weapon with good penetration, very flat trajectory, and so on. So it's still used mostly in its present form. There was probably only one important development of Kalashnikov, which is called as PKP Pecheneg. It's a relatively recent development from 1990s, early 2000s, when it was decided that troops normally don't carry a spare barrel in the field because it's additional weight and someone has to pick out. They prefer to carry a spare belt rather than a spelled barrel. But the barrel is more or less thin, and if you need to fire a lot of ammunition in a short amount of time, say, like you need to provide suppression or you in an ambush situation, you better to be able to expend all ammunition without cooling or without a barrel change. So Army put forward a request for a new machine gun, which would be able to fire at least 600 rounds without barrel change. There was two developments. One from Degtyaryov plant, which was called AEK 999, which used barrel made from special steel originally used for aircraft cannons. Special, very resistant steel, but it's very expensive. Because normally aircraft cannons are something which can be put on very expensive crafts, so it's not a place to save pennies. Second attempt was from Zenit-Ochmash, from the organization which is responsible for all testing and development of small arms in Russia, and which was known as Pecheneg. They decided to go with a forced air cooling, like has been used in a Lewis machine gun from World War I fame, but they used a thinner jacket, so no special aluminum radiator, just a thinner jacket from the rear part of the muzzle, barrel towards the muzzle, with the intake windows about the chamber area, and area which is hottest of all, and the barrel and hot air exiting at the muzzle. So they basically had a barrel cold air flow around most of the barrel. So in this configuration, the gun really can put 3 200 round bells without any damage to the barrel. So if you really need go like a Rambo style and suppress everybody around, you take the Pecheneg, and it's also standard issue mostly for airborne, for special forces and so on, alongside the standard PKM. Interesting thing, but it's basically the same Kalashnikov, but with different barrel. So actually you can put a Kalashnikov standard PKM barrel into Pecheneg, and vice versa.
Interesting.
Yeah, so most recent development is the Pecheneg M Special Forces gun, because the Special Forces said, okay, Pecheneg is fine, but we need a folding stock and we need a lighter gun. So basically they went back to the traditional Kalashnikov configuration with no jacket. They just used more modern steel and better barrel configuration for better cooling. They put a side folding stock. They put a little bit of Picatinny rails for modern scopes, but it's still the same Kalashnikov. Then you can still put the same old barrel from if you have some standard PKM, and have the same classic Kalashnikov machine gun. You still can use old Maxim steel belts or SGM belts. If you have some, you can still use all kinds of ammunition, LPS ball, armor piercing ball, probably even sniper ball if you ever you can find enough to feed the machine gun, and your bosses will not find out that you are wasting expensive sniper grade ammunition on a machine gun. But still, it's very reliable, it's lightweight, it's very well liked by everybody it is used. So basically, it's replaced all RPK light machine gun in most units, in most frontline units, because it produces much more firepower, much more range. It's overall better as a machine gun, as a light machine gun. It's still used on tripods, on fixed points, like guards, strong points, and so on. It's still used on all tanks or armored vehicles Russian army use. It's still used abroad by many countries which purchase Russian armored vehicle, Russian tanks, or just Russian arms. It's still copied by Chinese, by Bulgarians, by Yugoslavians, now it's Serbians, by Poland. There were several attempts to create a version of PKM and NATO, a standard, either using proprietary pull-out ammunition, like say Chinese do, or like Bulgarians do, using NATO standard disintegrating builds, like the Polish do. But I don't think it's really a good idea. So if you want to go to the NATO standard ammunition, you probably better get a gun designed specifically for this ammunition, because PKM was intentionally built to get most of the rimmed ammunition and closed pocket belt link. So it was the best compromise for this specific solution. If you want to go different cartridge, like a rimless one, 7.62 like this new 6.5 millimeters, you better go and design a new gun, get a new gun. Of course, you really should look at the PKM, how it was built, why it was so reliable, and so on.
Absolutely. But it's one of my very favorite machine guns ever.
Yeah, that's mostly a favorite machine gun by everybody, except those who are fired upon by this gun. So, I don't think everybody is ever happy by PKM when it is on the receiving end. But everybody else, right, never heard the really serious complaints. So yes, it can be improved by ergonomically, by added foregrips, added Nikitin rails, but inside it's still very, very well designed.
Absolutely. Well, cool. That was a very interesting overview of the Kalashnikov universal machine gun. Thank you very much, Max.
You're welcome.
Thank you guys all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video.
Bye.
I'm sure we'll have more from Max coming up.